With every top 10 list of the best movies of the summer comes a top 10 list of the worst films of the summer. And so this is my list of the top 10 worst films of summer 2016. My name is Nick Pell, and this is once again coming from my apartment. Now, apologies for this going up basically a week after the top 10 best movies went on, but I actually have another life. I live outside these videos, and I was very, very busy, very, very tired, and now I'm getting to it now, so get over yourself. I will also say this isn't a list particularly necessarily of films which I thought were terrible. I really had a tough time building this list more than my top 10 best films. That list was a lot more simple to assemble because there are a lot of films that I actually really enjoyed this summer, and there weren't as many that I absolutely hated. So a lot of the first half of this list or so are films more that just disappointed me as a viewer and weren't necessarily terrible films in and of themselves, at least in my opinion. Number 10 on this list is a film which honestly really disappointed me because it's Disney, and Disney almost always succeeds in my book, and that is Pete's Dragon. Pete's Dragon, I was really honestly quite bored with. It was fine in and of itself, but the most exciting parts of that movie were with Pete and Elliot, the dragon, together, and that really doesn't happen that often in the movie. My favorite part of the actual movie was like the first 5 minutes where you see him just get his parents die, and then he just as a little toddler, like 4 or 5-year-old, discovers Elliot, and I would have loved to see the movie just pick up from that point and just show them growing up in the forest together. That would have been really cool, and it doesn't do that, and it just cuts to a generic story which we've seen a million times before. And so Pete's Dragon, not necessarily a terrible movie, but one which really disappointed me. Number 10 on this list. Number 9 is one that I thought was going to be a comedy and ended up being a drama, and ended up really honestly disappointing me as a moviegoer, since it was a film which I was really looking forward to for August, and that was War Dogs. This film stars Miles Teller and Jonah Hill. They both do fine in the movie in and of themselves, and the first hour is actually quite good. The second half, though, just really got boring for me, and it didn't have the same level of fun as I expected it to, and it just became really predictable, and I just didn't have a very fun time with it by the end of the film. So yeah, War Dogs, my number 9 choice. Number 8 is another one which I was kind of expecting great things from and didn't really end up having it because of just too many fucking plot lines, and that is Independence Day Resurgence. And I said in that review, and this is still true to this day, I have not seen the original Independence Day movie. I need to see it. I know, don't put it in the comments please if you're going to. This one is just filled with so many different plot lines that I wasn't able to really focus on any one in particular and make that the highlight of the film. It tried to do so many different things with the movie that it just didn't end up being able to really build any of its characters to the fruition that they really deserve to be. There were a lot of interesting characters and a lot of interesting plot lines in the movie, but there are just so many that just didn't really work out that well. And if the film had just focused on the new guys, the younger characters, maybe even just kicked out most of the older characters, it might have actually worked quite well. Just didn't really have the same effect for me. And so as a result, Independence Day Resurgence, my number 8 choice of the worst of the films of 2016 summer. Just realized that August had a lot of crappy things on its month, and so that's why number 7 is Suicide Squad. Again, this is much more of a disappointment than it was like a terrible movie. I thought the movie was fine in and of itself. Fun characters, fun special effects, just didn't really have any good story to really live up to, and really just underused the Joker as much as they were really promoting him for this movie. So as a result, I just didn't really have a fun time with this movie, not nearly as much of a fun time as I was really expecting to, and so Suicide Squad is my number 7 choice of the worst films of the summer of 2016. Number 6, again, a film which I enjoyed more the second half, I think, than the first half, and that's Warcraft. Warcraft was, again, a disappointment for me. It was the movie which a lot of people were really building their hopes on for a good video game adaptation finally, and now those hopes are on Assassin's Creed in December, which I really hope is good. Warcraft just started off very, very boring for me. It was very political. It's kind of a Star Wars Episode 1 problem. And the second half got noticeably better because they actually finally got to the fights and everything like that, but I just didn't really have a fun time with this movie. It just really disappointed me, and yeah, number 6 on this list. Now we're in the top 5 of the worst films of 2016, of the summer 2016, and number 5 is Secret Life of Pets. This is, again, more of a film which disappointed me because it just straight out copied Toy Story 1 and 2. It's a very generic story. I thought the characters were fine in and of themselves. I think I mentioned in the review I would have liked to see much more of a movie starring Gidget, the white yappy dog, because she actually became much more of an interesting character than I thought Max or the big burly dog that he was with were as characters. I was much more invested in her story, just trying to find this dog which she's in love with, which she's never noticed by. It's kind of more of a tragic romance. It would have been much more of an interesting story. And instead it decides to focus on two dogs which don't get along very well in the beginning. You know what's going to happen once they go on this journey through New York City trying to get back to their owner. You know they're going to team up, work together, end up being best buddies by the end, and that's basically what happens. And so that's why this film is my number 5 choice, because it just really disappointed the hell out of me for being advertised for over a year. Another disappointment, number 4, is The Purge election year. After the phenomenal film, well maybe not phenomenal, but really fun movie, The Purge Anarchy, I was expecting really great things with this third and final, presumably final, installment of this franchise, and it just ended up being just not quite as much fun as I was expecting to. It followed just much more of a generic scheme of things. It was much more just kind of straightforward with the story. It didn't seem as random, or just didn't seem to have as much anarchy or as crazy wildness as Anarchy did. It seemed like you never knew what that movie was going to be around the next corner. This one just felt so much more predictable in regards to where it was going to go as a film, and as a result, I just ended up kind of disappointed by the movie as a result. So, Purge election year, my number 4 choice. Especially after Purge Anarchy was on my top 10 list of, I think, 2014. That's not good. Okay, now with the top 3, these are films which I actually did not enjoy very much at all. And so, number 3 on this list is Free State of Jones. As a history major, or someone who is a historian technically, I really did not like this movie because it didn't really focus on the Free State of Jones aspect. It was just very boring as a movie. It didn't really seem to know where it was going, if I remember correctly. I saw this thing back at the end of July, so I don't remember a whole lot about it, so that shows how forgettable it is. Matthew McConaughey stars in it. It looked like it could have been an Oscar contender by the trailer, and it just shows you that, oh hey, trailers can make a movie look fantastic, depending on who edits it and what they edit into the film, and what they edit into the trailer. And yeah, this one looked great. Ended up not being good at all, really, for me personally, and I was just bored by it. It didn't really have anything which I wanted it to have. And if I remember correctly, the end of the movie seemed to be like where it should have started off, or at least been at in the mid-section, because that's where it started to get interesting, because you had like the Ku Klux Klan and all these like racial issues which started to develop, and then the movie just ends, and it's just like, do the interesting part, not the before the interesting part. Stupid movie. So yeah, Free State of Jones, my number 3 choice. Didn't really enjoy it. And now we're on the top 2. Number 2 on this list, Ice Age Collision Course. Now, I don't want to be too terribly hard on this movie. I think it's probably good for kids. I think kids will probably enjoy it since they've made like 3 or 4 or 5 of these movies by now, and they apparently do well with kids. So, if this is not the last one in the franchise, I really hope it is, because I didn't really enjoy it. I thought that the animation was fine, but I just didn't really care about this movie whatsoever. I thought the plot lines were quite boring. I thought they were very predictable, and I thought that the characters were just not really all that interesting as a result. It played over plot issues and family issues that we've seen a million times in other better films, and I just didn't really enjoy it that much as a result. So, yeah, Ice Age Collision Course, not that good of a film, at least for my demographic, and so yeah, number 2 on this list. And now number 1 is a film which I ended up seeing, actually, I think either the weekend after or the same weekend as my number 1 choice for best film of this summer, and that is The Darkness. I feel really bad for the Batman or Gotham actor who was in this movie, because he's actually pretty good on that show, just not good in this movie, and I just detested this thing like none other. For a horror film, it's not scary whatsoever. It's not original whatsoever. It was just a stupid premise. The kid finds rocks in the Grand Canyon, and he ends up taking them home, and it basically becomes a stupid haunting movie, which is PG-13, so you know that they can't really do anything effective, like The Conjuring or anything like that. And so it just bored the hell out of me, and it didn't do anything really all that well, because they would find the same information over and over on the computer, and it's just, I don't know, it was just not a good movie whatsoever. It was probably the most painful movie that I watched over the last 4 months, and so yeah, The Darkness, if you've seen this thing, I apologize that you saw that thing in theaters. But yeah, The Darkness is not a good movie. Do not waste your time with it whatsoever. It'll probably be on my top 10 worst films of the year. And so guys, those are my top 10 worst films of summer 2016. I had a little bit of trouble describing some of these just because it's been so long since I've seen them, and also because I tried to purge them from my memory as best as physically possible. And so, yeah, that's it. But if you like this list, let me know your list of the top 10 worst films of the summer down in the comments down below. Make sure to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe once again if you so choose. I appreciate it immensely. I don't know if we'll be doing a best and worst video for August or a fall movie preview, myself and James DeSantis. We tried to do it once. It didn't record anything, so that was delightful. So I don't know if we'll get around to it. If we don't, that's why. But I have at least 4 movie reviews coming in the next couple days, so just keep an eye out for those. But guys, as always, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on watching.